I have a Acura TLX here. This one got hit right in this bottom corner of this quarter panel right here. Wadded up the rocker panel and quarter panel really bad right in this area. This is requiring a new quarter panel as bad as this is folded up. But the new quarter panel only comes to right about here. So once I get the quarter panel cut off, I'm gonna repair the rocker panel area. Once that's off, I'll go ahead and work all this back into shape and I'll start fitting up my new quarter panel. Unfortunately, on these, they don't sell a uniside, which is the whole side of the car. You have to buy each panel individually. It would have been a lot easier if they did sell a uniside. Then I have my new panel right here. You can see that's as far as it comes. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start cutting this one apart. And once I get the panel cut off, then I'll start working this rocker panel out. So they put this foam in there, and you got to remove it before you put the new panel on, otherwise it will catch fire when you're welding. And then it's expandable foam, so I'll put it in whenever the car's off, whenever the new panel's on. I spray it in there and then it'll expand back up. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start working out this rocker area. This is supposed to be a 90-degree angle right here, like it is up here. It's kind of flattened out, but as I work that out, this bulge should all flatten out. I'm gonna try to do it with this rod. We'll see how it goes. I might have to weld a tab on there. I'm gonna see what I can do with this first though. So before I start fitting the quarter panel, this rocker panel is dented in right down here. I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to go about fixing this. I'm going to draw a line right at the peak of this curve right here, roughly. I just got to get it close. So now I have these keys. I'm going to zap these right across that line. Then I'll put a bar through it, and I'll use that to pull this area out. And I'll work the crown out, which is like the high spot right here. They call it a crown. And as I pull that out, I'll work that out and straighten out the stent right here. I believe they say each of these keys has roughly 40 pounds of pulling force. So when you get a bunch of them on there, you can pull pretty hard with it. So I went ahead and I fit this door up to the quarter panel just to make sure it's sitting roughly exactly where I want it before I make my final cuts. So it looks good now. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make my final cuts on the car. I'm gonna actually just mark this one. Then I'll take the quarter panel back off and cut it. And this top one, I'm just gonna cut through both of the layers at the same time. So I would do that down here, except for I don't have very much quarter panel. If it came longer like a lot of them do, I would have cut through both, but being I don't have much to play with, I'm gonna mark it and just make one cut right there. Well, I got this one all fit together. My door gap lines up to the quarter panel very nicely. And then I'm also checking my trunk gaps and the taillight gaps, and all of that lines up very nice. So I'm gonna go ahead, this panel's ready to go on permanently. First I have to lift it back off because it gets a glue panel bond that goes through here, and then this lip gets folded around the wheelhouse. So I'm gonna lift it back off and I will lay out my glue and I will put it back on permanently and get it welded on. Before I lift it back off though, to make sure that I put it back exactly where it's sitting right now, I'm gonna drill about 4 1/8" holes for sheet metal screws in a few different spots. And then whenever I put it back on, I'll put sheet metal screws in those holes, and that'll tell me that it's sitting exactly where I have it right now. So this one is just about wrapped up. There's a little bit of fill work that's got to go here, and it needs a little more work down there on the rocker panel. But I'm going to send this one over to Eric to finish up the fill work on and get it in primer and send it over to paint, because I have another one I need to dive into next. So that's it for this one for me.